And we are live! You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020, but enough of me. I'm here for you on today's episode of the FV Show, the live stream version of the FV Show. We are going to get you all prepared for the Thursday night Week 2 battle between the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals in Cleveland, Ohio. Week 2 is underway. The NFL season is here, and it feels so good to say that. But before we get started, a few quick things from you. First off, smash that subscribe button. Power running back style like Derrick Henry up the middle so that you never miss a video from me. You can also hit that like button on the stream down below to show your support, to show your excitement for week 2 of the NFL season. Maybe you got a few players playing tonight. I'm rooting for you this week to get that W. Let's see, and last but not least, of course, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Specifically Twitter. Twitter is the main one, with Instagram and TikTok kind of taking a backseat to that, and it's just a simple matter of Twitter is such the information platform. It's the platform for conversation. And let's say Jarvis Landry, for example. Jarvis Landry is playing tonight. As soon as that news drops, I can just tweet out, hey, if you have Jarvis, start him this week, right? It's very easy, a very quick way for me to put out content, so I love Twitter for that reason. That is the number one place that you should follow me. We're gonna get right into it. Also in this live stream is going to be my weekly segment, Sneaky Safe Smash, featuring my sneaky plays of the week, my safe plays of the week, and my smash plays for the week. And that being because I hate weekly rankings because they don't give the context for why you should start player X over player Y, and that's what this segment aims to do. This video was not supposed to be a live stream. Instead of working on the Browns and Bengals preview last night, I actually had a really important business call, and that took about 2.5 hours or so. So a lot of fun things are here in the works over at Fantasy Vulture, and I can't wait for you guys to experience what we have planned and what we have in store. But let's get right into the nitty-gritty of this Thursday night football. Bengals at Browns. It is a 5.5 line. Browns -5. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say this right now. Bengals plus 5.5 feels like stealing money. That feels like free money in a way that's so nice early on in the season, right? If you're getting your bets in, like this is one of those games where it's just like, huh? Like that's the line. We know that the Browns have struggled, and that the Bengals obviously have a rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow. But even just watching the two games last week side by side, it's 5.5. Like that's all this is. So I'm gonna roll Bengals plus 5.5. That feels like a nice way to earn some cash on a Thursday night, if I do say so myself. Let's get into the game notes though for this game. Oh wait. We gotta flip cams. There we go. We gotta get the nice little. It's this hand, isn't it? We got to get the nice little lower third in the graphic here, in the stream. So let's talk some game notes here. Both teams are 0-1. The Browns got trounced by the Ravens 38-6 in Week 1, and the Bengals lost 13-16 against the Chargers in Cincinnati. Obviously, there was a big chance for Cincinnati to take that game in overtime before Randy Bullock pulled his calf and missed the game-tying field goal. I believe it was as time expired. Jarvis Landry plans to play tonight. He's active despite the hip injury that he was battling this week in practice. 3 starting offensive linemen for the Browns were questionable going into this game, but it looks like that all 3 are expected to play, so that is a really great sign for guys like Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, or if you are starting Baker Mayfield for whatever reason, obviously him having the ability to stand in the pocket just a little bit longer always helps. And on the other side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, the big thing I want to talk about here a little bit is Cleveland's defense. It's a defense that came into this season with a little bit of like an underrated feeling around them, like just going up and down their roster. It was just kind of like, oh shit, like they actually have like some players that can take this defense to the next level. They were pretty good last year, all things considered. But right now, Greedy Williams, cornerback, is inactive. Cornerback Kevin Johnson, also inactive. Mack Wilson with that hyperextended knee, he's inactive. And Olivier Vernon, their defensive end, is also inactive. And that leads me into such a great transition for start sit. Guys, start your Bengals. Please just do it. Start your Cincinnati Bengals against the Browns defense this week, right? As I just said, this line is 5.5. It's a line that honestly makes no sense whatsoever. Home field advantage isn't necessarily a thing in 2020 per se because of no fans in the stands. And of course, this is a rivalry game. It's Joe Burrow's first taste of this rivalry. So so for the Cincinnati, I think like Joe Mixon, and I'm going to talk about him in just a little bit. Joe Mixon to me is an absolute smash play. Mixon's last 2 games versus the Browns, 308 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 24 missed tackles. You know, one of the things that we'd like to label, I think this happens a lot in baseball, specifically where we label a different player as an ex-team killer. So, for example, Paul Konerko was what we called the Indians killer because every single time the White Sox came to town, he would just light the Indians up. Mike Sweeney of the Royals was another guy that kind of fits into that category. Nelson Cruz is the White Sox killer when he plays for Minnesota for the Twins. Now, obviously, different sports, but you kind of get the idea here. So, Joe Mixon to me, I think, is the Cleveland Browns killer. I mean, he's already so talented. He's one of my favorite running backs, and I love the opportunity, especially with the way that this Browns defense is currently shaking out to be, especially with no Olivier Vernon on the defensive line, and then also no Mac Wilson in the middle there. So, love Joe Mixon this week. You're starting AJ Green, and again, no Greedy Williams, no Kevin Johnson. Please, and you were probably already starting AJ Green, but just to give you even more confidence, I think you should start him. We saw the glimpses of what he did last week. Like, he looked really good, I thought, when he was on the field last week. He obviously had the touchdown that was called back due to offensive pass interference. That would have won Cincinnati the game. I felt like, just going through some of the highlights and just some of the plays last week, I felt like his connection with Joe Burrow, like, it was kind of just like this quick-hitting, like, momentous type thing, which I really thought was intriguing. And I even think Tyler Boyd is a safe flex play, in all honesty. And I don't think Tyler Boyd is going to come out and have a lights-out game by any means, but I do think that Tyler Boyd is going to have a pretty good floor for you in this game, just based upon what's happening with that Cleveland defense and the Cleveland secondary. So, that being said, Joe Burrow, are you really starting him? Probably not, because again, he is the rookie quarterback. This is his second game. And we're still trying to really get a feel for what he can do in terms of fantasy football. So I don't think I'd go as far as saying start Joe Burrow. But theoretically, the math does add up to where we like Joe Mixon, we like AJ Green, we like Tyler Boyd to an extent. So does that mean you also start Joe Burrow? I think the case for it is there, but personally I'm going to try and just stay away. Really just trying to figure out what these rookies can do on a week in, week out basis as they try and adjust to NFL game speed, what different defenses are going to throw at them, and really just how they navigate the 2020 season with such an unprecedented offseason. For the Browns, you're starting Nick Chubb. I feel like that's the obvious one. You're going to start Nick Chubb. You drafted him high. This Bengals defense, they made some improvements, but it's still not great by any means, so Chubb should be viable. Do you start Odell? Like, is Odell Beckham at this point an auto start? And that's the question that we really have to ask ourselves. I'll touch on that in just a moment. Jarvis Landry is kind of a safe flex option. Battling through that hip injury gives me some concern, especially because of the fact that he was so questionable leading up into this game. So, are you confident starting Jarvis Landry? I think, and here's the thing, I actually have more confidence starting Jarvis Landry than I do Odell Beckham. And I think it's simply based upon expectation. You know, with Odell, we expect 120 yards and a touchdown. Whereas Jarvis Landry, we expect five catches for 65 yards, right? And that's good enough. Just having like that 10 to 11 point floor every single week in half point formats. So, Odell. I'm on record of saying that I'm not the biggest Odell Beckham fan. But the reason why I specifically loved him this year was because of the draft cost. You were getting him in that 4th or even 5th round at times, and having a guy like that with true top 10, top 5 upside, getting him that late in drafts just really felt absurd. And it really did feel like you were playing with house money. But now the question becomes, what happens if things stay as unpredictable and as on the decline as they've been? You know, there's going to be a point here where we're really going to have to adjust our expectations for what Odell Beckham should do and should provide for your fantasy team every single week. Last week against Baltimore, he had 10 targets. Like, he led the team in targets, which is good. But he only hauled in 3 of those. There was just a lot of miscommunication between him and Baker. There is still no real chemistry between the two. And that's just really frustrating for a guy whose potential really is through the roof. And he just, for whatever reason, can't put it together. My friend has a dilemma right now. And he actually just texted me this earlier. I didn't respond. His wide receiver core it's crazy. It's Kenny Golladay, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Odell, and Tyler Lockett. Like, it's probably the best wide receiver core for fantasy I've ever seen in my life. And Godwin is in the concussion protocol. Michael Thomas has a high ankle sprain. Kenny Golladay has the hamstring injury. And so he literally texted me, and we were talking about Odell pretty much all week and just saying, like, what happens now? Like, how confident are you starting him? And he says, just when I thought I could finally bench Odell, Godwin gets a concussion, Golladay is still absent from practice, and Michael Thomas sprains his ankle, of fucking course. So, the way that I'm going to approach Odell this game is very simply, if he can't get it done against this defense, which again is not great by any means, and they're kind of just hovering above average right now, or like at like that average line. If he can't get it done against this in a primetime game, when are you ever going to feel confident starting Odell Beckham, right? Because this is almost as good of a matchup as you can get. So this is, to me, this is the last week that Odell Beckham is an auto start for you. It's a scary auto start, admittedly, but I think it's one where, like, it's week 2, it's still early in the year. You can obviously make adjustments and trade and make your roster lineups after, and make your roster changes after the fact. But for one more week, I'm gonna give it to Odell. I'm gonna buy the target volume. I'm just gonna buy that it was just mixed, that the game script versus Baltimore was just so lopsided in one direction. There was nothing that Odell could have done. And we're going to see if this week 2 is really going to be a reset for the Cleveland Browns and for Odell Beckham in 2020. Are you starting Austin Hooper? You could. With David Njoku going on IR, I think Hooper's opportunity opens up just a little bit more. Hooper's snaps in week 1, admittedly, were a bit weird. I want to pull up the exact numbers just to make sure that I get them right. But he was splitting a lot of time while on the field, and I still don't even actually have the snap counts in yet. Here we go. Let's go tight end. All right. Let's see. I'm scrolling. Yeah, so Hooper played 76% of the offensive snaps, but he was splitting time with Njoku. Like, Njoku caught the touchdown last week, and their rookie Harrison Bryant, he was also on the field and he was getting some run. So, Njoku going on IR, I think that's really just going to open up the opportunity for Austin Hooper a little bit more. Again, this game feels like it's not going to be high scoring with a whole lot of action, so I do have some pause with Austin Hooper, especially with just considering the fact that, okay, so Hooper's going to be the 3rd guy, but theoretically he's going to be the 4th or maybe 5th guy, right? Chubb's going to be 1, Odell should be 2, Jarvis 3, Kareem Hunt 4, Austin Hooper 5, right? So are you going to play that game? Where you're comfortable starting Austin Hooper? Personally, I'd try and maybe find a different option or so, and it's still just one of those things where I just need to figure out what this Browns offense is going to look like. And in a onesie position like that with the tight end, where I know how deep it actually is this season, I may pivot and look in another direction. But if you have to start him, I don't think it's a bad start necessarily by any means. I just think it's one of those things where you're just gonna kind of throw your hands up, roll the dice, and see what comes of it. Kareem Hunt is a name that I haven't brought up yet. Do you play Kareem Hunt? I think so. I think you play Kareem. Just going off like through my head, right? Your options are Kareem Hunt or Boston Scott. Miles Sanders returned back to practice with a hamstring injury. Boston Scott also dealing with a little thing like, is he going to see some run? Do you in that situation you go Kareem Hunt? Let's see. Give me who's another name that comes to mind. Zach Moss or Kareem Hunt? Probably Kareem. Like, I just think with Hunt, just knowing that you're going to get a guy who is going to play at most, he is going to play 50% of the snaps, which admittedly I don't like, but we know he's going to get the opportunity in the passing game, and he is going to get some rushing attempts, and he's just going to be on the field, and he's going to be part of the offense. I think Hunt is a pretty safe flex play. I might look to see maybe if I have a better option, but I feel like that there is, like, you're probably pretty comfortable starting Kareem Hunt, all things considered. I don't think Hunt's going to kill you this week. And I think that's kind of like where you have to decide when it comes to starting running like that. When it comes to starting the second fiddle and a running back by committee, is this player going to potentially kill me this week? And Kareem Hunt, I feel like is just a guy in a committee that has a really safe floor almost every single week. Let's move on now to my sneaky, safe, and smash plays of the week, and then we'll get up out of here. So, starting off my sneaky plays of the week, I'm going to start off with Ronald Jones, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, versus the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. And very, very simply put, Ronald Jones had 17 carries last week against the Saints. He was by far and away the Buccaneers' number one running back. There was a lot of concern about how much work is LaShawn McCoy going to see. They obviously brought in Leonard Fournette, who actually only played about 5 or 6 snaps the entire game. So this is LaShawn McCoy's this is Ronald Jones' backfield, excuse me. And Carolina gave up 33.9 points to Josh Jacobs. I've been saying it all offseason. This Carolina defense is absolutely abysmal. They're going to give up a shit ton of points almost to every single position, and it's specifically against the running backs. It just looks really, really bad. Again, they spent all 7 of their draft picks this season on defensive players. So not only are you going up against a defense that is naturally bad, but also there's just so much inexperience in that defense as well. And I think Jones can take advantage of it given his opportunity. And now that we kind of know for a fact that this is his backfield moving forward for the rest of the season, tentatively. The other sneaky play that I'm going to bring up is Mike Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers versus Kansas City. Look, we all know how the Chiefs operate. They're going to hang up points on the board and they're going to put them up fast, right? The Chiefs' goal is to put you in a hole so big, like a 21-point lead, to the point where you have no choice but to air it out. And that's going to then lead to mistakes, right? And that's when the Chiefs are really going to capitalize on their defense with. So Mike Williams versus Kansas City, I think, makes a lot of sense for like a sneaky flex play, or even maybe as a wide receiver 2 option if you loaded up running backs early on in your draft. So Williams had 9 targets last week in week 1. It looked pretty clear that he was Tyrod's number 1 target. And if this game goes how I just said it's going to, with Kansas City just hanging up points on the board, the Chargers are going to have to not only play from behind, but score from behind. And what other player better to do that than the deep ball threat that is Mike Williams, who had 1,000 yards on 46 catches last year and only got in the end zone, I think it was 2 times. Right, he's due. Like, he is due for these, not only for a monster boost in the touchdown category, but then also just, becoming a more consistent wide receiver. And if Tyrod has already shown favoritism to him as his number one target, like, Mike Williams can be a very, very sneaky play. Like, Mike Williams' 45-yard catch, probably in the realm of possibilities. Mike Williams' 30-yard touchdown, kind of likely, right? So you can see, I think, where that math kind of adds up into why Mike Williams is a pretty good option, I think, versus the Chiefs this week. And then my other sneaky play of the week is Phillip Rivers, quarterback for the Colts versus Minnesota. Rivers came off of a pretty mad game against a very bad Jacksonville defense, but this Minnesota Vikings defense also does not look great as well. And I do expect Rivers to bounce back as a home game for the Colts. And it's just, I think, it's very weird, I think, judging quarterbacks when they switch teams. This is slowly going to become a new thing, I think, because it doesn't happen really often, right? How often have we seen guys like Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Cam Newton switch teams, right? It's no like franchise guy, like we call them franchise guys because they stay in franchises for longer than, or for like the almost the entire duration of their career. So I felt like week 1 against Jacksonville, while Rivers had a really good opportunity to set the tone early on in that game and really produce for fantasy. I just think we needed to just kind of take a step back and realize, hey, like this was the first game in the new system. Again, there was no preseason action whatsoever. Limited practices just due to COVID, and like they weren't able to get the full run that you really need to when you're a quarterback switching teams. Teddy Bridgewater actually is another name that just came to mind for this. So this Minnesota defense was absolutely atrocious. They gave up 350 passing yards to Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns, and if that is the case, I think you can actually make the argument that the Colts might have better offensive weapons than the Packers. I think Devontae Adams is the clear-cut like number 1, like yes, but when you go like 2 through 4, right? Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor now, like how does that stack up compared to Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Aaron Jones? I think like those are like, and also Nyheim Hines in Indy as well. So I think like that's kind of like where the separation factor like really takes place, because you have Devontae Adams here, and then everybody else is kind of down here. But whereas you have T.Y. Hilton here, who's like a step below, but then everybody else for Indy is just like right there as well. So just kind of realizing that I think as a collective unit, the Colts have a better offensive cast than the Packers, and we just saw what the Packers did to Minnesota last week. So I really like Phillip Rivers this week versus the Vikings. Moving over to my safe plays of the week, Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears versus the Giants. First game after the contract disputes, we heard rumors that he requested a trade, and then he said, no, I'm going to play out this season. And the reason why I love Allen Robinson this week is because, one, it is the first game after the contract dispute, and Allen Robinson is going to be on a mission, I think, for the rest of the season to prove to everybody just how great of a wide receiver that he is. To me, he is my favorite wide receiver. Is he my favorite wide receiver? I'm running through the list right now. Yeah, I'd say Allen Robinson's if he's not my number 1, he's probably my top 3, all things considered. So I am a big Allen Robinson fan. It's also because he helped me win my first fantasy championship back in 2015. So first game coming off a contract dispute. And then also, Pittsburgh wide receivers just absolutely cooked the Giants defense in week 1. We saw Juju go 6 for 6 in terms of targets and receptions. I think Juju had 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. Deontay Johnson had 10 targets, and while he didn't do a whole lot with it, like the volume was there. And then also, James Washington got in the end zone as well. So this Giants defense really is not great. They started scrambling. Oh no. What just happened? There goes the camera. Give me a sec. Alright, we're back. I forgot to flip on a setting that makes sure that it doesn't happen. So that's what I was saying about Allen Robinson. This Giants defense, like they were really just trying to throw things together, almost seemingly on the fly throughout this offseason. Like it looked like one of those things where the Giants defense was never set to be good, and then all of a sudden they brought in Logan no. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. They just signed him. He's the cornerback. He's the cornerback from the Titans. Oh no, that's gonna drive me insane. All right, big brain fart. They brought him in. They traded Eli Apple this offseason, or they didn't bring him back. And Eli Apple obviously had his ups and downs throughout the early parts of his NFL career. And basically, like this is a defense that's just kind of scrambling for an identity right now. And I think that the Bears can take advantage of it. Mitch played better in the second half than he did in the first. Like that's going to be the big issue here with Allen Robinson every single week is what does the quarterback play look like. But I do think because of this contract dispute, like that really is the big reason why I feel so confident in Allen Robinson this week, because he is due for such a bounce back game after his meh performance in week 1. And it wasn't even meh. It's one of those things where, again, quarterback play, you have to be able to get him the ball. I actually saw a hilarious video just the other day. I think I retweeted it, and it was basically just every single errant pass thrown to Allen Robinson's way, and you can just see the frustration boiling in him, in his face of, oh my God, can these fucking people get me the ball, right? So I love Allen Robinson this week as a play against the Giants. Another safe option, and admittedly, I'm kind of wavering on this a little bit, but I still think that it kind of holds true for now. Drew Brees versus it's actually at Vegas, I believe. At Vegas, Monday night. No Michael Thomas this week, no problem. That's kind of how I view this right now. No Michael Thomas, no problem. The Las Vegas defense gave up 20 points to Teddy Bridgewater, and Bridgewater, trying to figure out what Teddy Bridgewater was going to be this season is going to be an interesting thing, and it's going to be something that kind of takes time. But we did know that this Vegas Raiders defense had athletes on it, and there was room for them to be pretty good. But we still kind of don't fully know. And just to kind of give up such a game like that to Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who a lot of people consider to be a game manager, and you're giving up 20 points to that, and now you're going to take on the Saints and their offense. And yes, there's probably going to be no Michael Thomas, but you are still going to have to deal with a Jared Cook who always has a high opportunity for not only for yardage but also for touchdowns. Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, and how do you prepare for the 1-2 punch between him and Latavius Murray? Emmanuel Sanders, tried and true. He's going to have to step up. Traquan Smith is the name that we've been throwing out and the hype has been building on, although I still don't believe it. But I still think that Drew Brees has the weapons to still put up a decent enough game versus this Raiders defense who did just give up a decently big performance to a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, someone who we never really expected true fantasy numbers from, I guess, in the past, right? And then number 3, Austin Eckler as my last safe play of the week. Running back for the Chargers versus Kansas City. Very similar to Mike Williams. If they get blitzed and they start to play from behind, you have to trust that the dump-offs to Eckler are going to be there. And while we didn't see it in week 1, they paid him this offseason to be that Swiss Army knife type of player, to be that Christian McCaffrey light. And there's just no way I think that happens again. And maybe that is just me holding out hope as an Austin Eckler fan, but I do actually think that this week is going to be like the week. We're going to find out, right? Eckler had 19 carries last week. I think Eckler played 75% of snaps. Let's pull this up. In fact, I feel like the number's actually higher. Let's see. Snap percent. Alright, Austin Eckler played 67% of snaps. He had the 19 carries, the 1 target, and that's obviously going to be the big thing here is will he get the targets? And in a game like this, right? If Kansas, and it's not even if, it's more so when Kansas City drops 21 in the first 18 minutes of this game, right? What are the Chargers going to have to do, right? They're going to have to move the ball, and how do you do that? You give that to your little water bug of a running back and let it make plays. So this week, I'm playing Austin Eckler. I'm feeling very, very safe. I feel like you're going to get that safe floor. He might 17 carries, 75 rushing yards, a touchdown, and then 4 catches for 40 yards, right? So I feel like to me that feels like such a comfortable stat line for Austin Eckler in a game that is expected to be that high-scoring affair, right? Because if the Chargers want to keep up, if any team wants to keep up versus Kansas City versus Kansas City this season, excuse me. I was going to say this offseason. That doesn't make any sense. We are in season. If anybody wants to keep up with Kansas City this season, you have to put up points. And how do you do that? You give that to one of your best, if not the best, offensive player on your team. Moving over finally to the smash plays of the week. Number 1, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver versus the Falcons. No Jarwin. Jarwin, obviously, Blake Jarwin, tight end for the Cowboys, blew out his ACL versus the Rams. And that was really, to me, that was one of the big concerns about CeeDee Lamb this season, was just the amount of mouths that Dallas Cowboys offense had to feed week in and week out. I didn't know if CeeDee Lamb had any secure consistency, but now that Jarwin's eliminated from the equation, the majority of Jarwin's work, I think, is going to go to CeeDee. I felt like he looked really good against the Rams. This Falcons defense is not good by any means, and it's going to be a high-score game because, again, with the Falcons are going to hang up 30. They're also going to give up 30, right? I think I'm probably going to smash the over on every single Falcons game. And if that is the case, just be ready in any given matchup to start the opposition, right? Doesn't matter who it is, you're starting the opposition against the Falcons. So CeeDee Lamb for me is a guy who I'm like, if you start CeeDee Lamb at your flex, I really think there is room for a lot of boom potential this week against Atlanta. Going back to Thursday night, my second smash play of the week is Joe fucking Mixon. Breakout game. And breakout game for 2020, we know how great Joe Mixon is, right? But Joe Mixon has this tendency to kind of just struggle through random games throughout the season. If you guys remember last season, he started off so bad, people were actually cutting him. But then by the end of the year, he was just dominating entirely. And I think that Mixon is going to find his footing this week after only scoring 4.7 fantasy points last week, which was an absolute deflating. It was a really, really deflating performance from Joe Mixon because you spent your back of the first, early second round pick on a guy who you were expecting to produce. I talked all off season about how much I love Joe Mixon and this offense and the potential that this offense has, right? To be a team that puts up 25 points a game, to be a team that moves the ball consistently. So I really am excited about Joe Mixon once again. His past 2 games against the Browns, 308 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 24 missed tackles, and I think his PFF grade was like 84.9 or something ridiculous. Basically, Joe Mixon, start him against the Browns every single opportunity you get. And then my final smash play is Aaron Rodgers versus Detroit. This Detroit defense was shaky. It was shaky. Jeff Okudah missed week 1. Don't know if he's going to play week 2 yet. I don't know about the full injury report yet. I got to actually go catch up on that. But if he doesn't, it's even better for Aaron Rodgers. This defense for the Lions is absolutely decimated. They got torched by Mitch Trubisky, right? Like, that's something that we actually have to consider. While Mitch did not play well in like the first quarter and a half of that game, he absolutely scorched them during the second half, right? I think, let me run through the math real quick. 1, 2. He had 3 touchdowns in the second half of that game, and it's Mitch Trubisky. And as much as I love Mitch Trubisky, my fellow Carolina Tar Heel Mitch Trubisky, my former Northeast Ohio legend Mitch Trubisky, he is just Mitch Trubisky, and this is Aaron Rodgers with that supporting cast of Aaron Jones and Davante Adams, who can both just absolutely cook. Like, Davante Adams honestly should be another smash play this week as well. So I think that's actually going to do it for my Week 2 Thursday night preview and my sneaky, safe, and smash plays for the week. If you enjoyed this video, be sure, and this live stream, be sure to leave that like button down below. Just hit it like an open receiver downfield, Patrick Mahomes style. You can also subscribe to my channel here. I do a ton of fantasy football content. I try to go every single day, but like more so like Thursday through Tuesday, like that's the big chunk. I basically release 32 videos in a 4-day span, and it's absolutely chaos, but it's so much fun. So be sure to stick around for that by hitting that subscribe button down below. And last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. There we go. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Twitter being the primary platform that I use. And I think that's going to do it. We're going to get up out of here and let's go enjoy some Thursday night football action. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy champions